and this is the reality, Reese. You've been dealing with this. Of course, you dealt with this whole deal with then Senator Kamala Harris running. You do not let misinformation to slide by. You have got to attack it head on and be just as vicious and hardcore in going after it.
Absolutely. And you know, Roland, even when the vaccine first came out and a lot of people were talking about vaccine access, and they were almost suggesting that it was anti-Black to discuss vaccine hesitancy. And I was really trying to sound the alarm about how vaccine hesitancy is being driven by this disinformation and misinformation that is permeating social media. And unfortunately, it's taken something like a Nicki Minaj or a handful of other Black celebrities or entertainers who have, more prominently shared disinformation for people to really realize the extent with which this is having a harmful impact. And unfortunately, in the case of Nicki Minaj, instead of dialing it back and saying, hey, okay, guys, I got it. It was a ridiculous story. It's not my personal experience. I'm not invested in the story. You guys say it's ridiculous. Cool. Like, I take it back. She just doubled and quadrupled down, and then she sicked her barbs on all kinds of people. She slurred Joy-Ann Reid, and they're just on a rampage now because she refuses to do the responsible thing, which is take accountability for sharing disinformation. And unfortunately, as you pointed out with Dr. Fauci, I don't think that the country as a whole is taking disinformation and misinformation seriously enough. It's not just enough to identify it in these spurts, in these more prominent viral moments. We have to attack this relentlessly every single day because they are winning the war. And unfortunately, you have people who are digging in more and more and being anti-vax or whatever you want to call yourself, which if you don't like the word anti-vax, is becoming more of a lifestyle and an identity that people are taking on instead of being willing to be open to the facts and the science and the data that's out there. And unfortunately, Black people are the ones that are most impacted. We're most impacted by COVID, and we're most impacted by lack of vaccine, the not taking the vaccines, because we talked about it last week,
right,
in Miami. There were 13, at least at that time, there were 13 school staffers who had died. All of them were Black,
right,
and all of them were unvaccinated. So this is killing people in our community. It's not a laughing matter. Even though the story was absurd and it was a joke and it was ridiculous, it's not a laughing matter about this disinformation in our community.
That's the point, Dr. Turner. This is life and death. That's what it boils down to.
I mean, definitely life and death. Having information without interpretation is almost dangerous than information alone. And as a healthcare professional, it's very, very disappointing that people are talking about, I did my research, do your research, but I did research at Meharry, and unless you have, centrifuges and early modern flasks or running clinical trials, going to Google and looking up information is not research. And hearing about what your cousin, friend, baby mama, dog had happened to them, that's definitely not research. So I really, really pray that we can get to a point where we get back to the basics, because, polio is not here today because we had mass information that people allowed to be, guided by healthcare professionals. And nowadays, you probably can't think of the last time, somebody who was diagnosed with polio. So this whole disinformation and misinformation, even when I'm having the conversations with patients, like today, I had a lady who's a medical assistant, and she was in my office, and I just knew that she had been vaccinated. So by the time it came to that part of the conversation, I say, had you not been vaccinated? She say, no, I haven't been vaccinated. I say, you're in the medical field. Now, I've been knowing you for years. Why have you not been vaccinated? Well, they saying this, and they saying that, they saying this. I'm your doctor. What have I said? Man, I've been seeing your posts. So why are you allowing what happens outside there to be more important than what's happening in here? Well, I had COVID last year, and I do have a 7-year-old home who has asthma. I'm just scared. You're not scared of the virus? You mean you're more scared of the vaccine than you are the virus? Let me give you a news flash. You didn't have the Delta variant last year. The Delta variant is here. And if you, as someone in the healthcare field, is not taking things serious, what do you think about everybody that knows you? And just for sakes, let's say that you get COVID and you survive it, but you pass it on to that 7-year-old. Let me ask you a question. If that 7-year-old does not make it, are you literally willing to wake up every day, the rest of your life, living with that guilt, when all you had to do was to take a vaccine that reduces your risk of dying from it and reduces your risk of having severe disease? You say, Doc, when are y'all gonna get the vaccines in? I said, we're gonna get it in Monday, the next dose. We sold out right now. Yeah, I may need to come and get it next week.
What you described actually just happened in Texas, Tiffany. A mother passed on COVID to her 4-year-old child. That child is now dead as a result of that. And the thing we talk about celebrities, we talk about impact. There's a flip side, Tiffany, when folks say, man, we really need our entertainers speaking out on issues. That's called informed entertainers speaking out on issues. If you add the numbers up for Nicki Minaj between Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook, that's 240 million followers.
She was live last night, Roland. I watched about 20 minutes of it. She was live on Instagram last night, and there were it was 99.7 thousand people.
Watching her basically 100,000 people were watching.
Watching her IG live last night. She was live last night.
So let me put this in context. The live piece, okay? Let me put this in context. 100,000 people were watching a Nicki Minaj live video on Instagram last night, and to get 100,000 live viewers, we would do that in a month and a half. That's the point I'm trying to get people to understand.
Yeah.
When people who have platforms, when they say things, you gotta use it wisely.
That's right. That's right. With great power comes great responsibility, as the great Spider-Man said. And folks who have that platform can't just openly and ignorantly say what they want to say, because the influence that it has on your followers is very serious. What I decided to do was, while I was watching the live, was read the comment section. And I just want to acknowledge up front that the comment section is based off of proximity. So there are people that I follow, like Timberland and some other artists, whatever, and I can see their comments. I can't see all 99.7 thousand people's comments. The comments that I was seeing, as I read them, were in support of Nicki. Nicki, we still got your back. You was telling the truth. Don't let the government shut you up. They're going to try to pay you to do this. And she was acknowledging that she was going to go to the White House. And they were like, yeah, that's good. You should have been in the White House. And I just think it's interesting. This is not a shame or a dig at my community, but I just think it's interesting as we try to navigate, which we'll talk about in a little bit, how people use their platforms and what information people decide to believe based off of their proximity and influence of a celebrity, per se, like Nicki Minaj. And more importantly, what people decide to take a very hard stance on.
Boom.
And what people decide to not focus on at all.
Boom.
Because I've been doing this work for about 13 years now. That's just the way it works. But it's really discouraging and hard to know that there are people who will stand up for Nicki Minaj over her baby daddy's friends' testicles blowing up, and then stand up for her in the name of this, but not stand up for other issues that are actually more pressing and present in their communities. And I wonder how many of those 99.7 thousand people were actually vaccinated themselves or have lost somebody to COVID, right? I've had COVID. I've also been vaccinated. I was watching her live, and I was like, she is not the doctor. And you cannot play the victim because you said what you said. It is on record, and it is there forever. And people were moved and influenced by it. The same way that I'm going to hold Donald Trump accountable for telling people to drink bleach when COVID first started, I'm going to have to hold Nicki Minaj accountable when she's telling people that somebody blew up their balls and their testicles because they got the vaccine and lost their chance of having a happy marriage.
Well, Greg,
we can't believe that.
And Greg Carr, I got some idiot on YouTube by Florida Smoke. A black man promoting vaccines to his own people, SMDH, so sad. So if you can't listen to a black male doctor, all right, who the hell are you going to listen to? Because here's what I do know. Greg, and this is what trips me up with these people. If somebody right now, if all of a sudden they go to the doctor and they say, you're diabetic, what they going to say? Yeah, I ain't believing you, doc. I'm just going to keep going out there and eating sweets and everything. All right, go have a diabetic coma and see what happens. Okay, your ankle, a doctor says you broke your ankle. You know what, doc? I'm just going to ignore you. I'm going to keep walking on it. Yeah, it hurts, but I don't think it's broke. See, that's what, it's amazing to me how it's like, oh, we'll listen to doctors on a whole bunch of stuff. But then, no, I ain't going to listen to the doctor on this stuff. Even though you're a black male doctor. That's the one that just really cracks me up. Because Nikki had a lot of plastic surgery, which means she listened to a doctor who did a surgery. No, somebody got to go ahead and say it. I mean, we got to stop playing. She had a baby. Did she have a baby by herself? Or was there a doctor present?
Yeah, yes. I mean, not going to listen to Roland Martin. Not going to listen to Sister Tiffany. Not going to listen to Reese. Not going to listen to you, Dr. Turner. You got to fight fire with fire. You know, it's something Senator Warnock said when he was campaigning and he came on the show. He said COVID-19 exposed COVID-16-19. And I think that's very valid. What you see in moments like this is that the underlying conditions of the society are laid bare. So what you see, first of all, why is anybody listening to Nicki Minaj? Because celebrity culture has eaten the society, but celebrity culture was always there. That's number one. Social media, as PC tells us, is a cesspool. We all use it because we have to be engaged in it because we're trying to get messages out, but it has been overrun by deliberate attacks from all over the world. I'm not blaming the Russians or the Chinese. I'm blaming everything and everybody. We see them now going after people in the Biden administration, blaming them for Afghanistan. It's just flooding. And then you have the convergence of the undermining of institutions. Ignorance kills. And I can tell you as a teacher, I fail every day in the face of ignorance. Did you read this? Yes. And then the question comes and I'm like, did you read that or not? Access to information is not enough. But what, as Raphael Warnock said, COVID-19 just exposed the underlying issues we are facing. Malcolm said this in the mid-1960s before he was assassinated. He said, which other group do you know has athletes and entertainers as their leaders?
Boom.
But the simple fact of the matter is, at this point, everybody does. People are listening to celebrities, and so I think finally that the best person to counter Nicki Minaj would be one of her number one fans who managed fan sites until he figured out how to use algorithms and Vibe to create himself as a global celebrity. Let Lil Nas X beef with her. And then what you would then find would be a cleavage in this thing. But I don't know whether Lil Nas X is vaccinated, but if he is, he need to take his horse down Old Town Road and take on his his Nicki Minaj. And because we are now beyond logic. This has nothing to do with logic. The thing this has exposed is the class tensions in our community. Nobody's going to listen to us because they're going to say, you bougie Negroes, I ain't going to do it because you said do it. You have to fight fire with fire, Roland. That's why Fauci said he been on TikTok, but they ain't going to listen to him.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart.
Roland Martin's doing this every day.
Oh, no punches!
Thank you, Roland Martin, for always giving voice to the issues.
Look for Roland Martin in the whirlwind, to quote Marcus Garvey again.
The video looks phenomenal, so I'm really excited to see it on my big screen.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
I got to defer to the brilliance of Dr. Carr and to the brilliance of the Black Star Network.
I am rolling with Roland all the way. Honored to be on a show that you own. A black man owns the show.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Roland was amazing on there.
Stay black. I love y'all.
I can't commend you enough about this platform that you've created for us to be able to share who we are, what we're doing in the world, and the impact that we're having.
Let's be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared. You dig?